All right, in this session, we're going to look at nouns, Hebrew nouns. Now, Hebrew has nouns, and according to their origin or derivations, they may be divided into three classes. According to their origin or derivation, they may be divided into three classes. The first is the primitive noun. Now, we do not know where they are derived from. They typically have two or four root letters. They have two root letters, or they have four root letters. Now, typically in Hebrew, what it means is, typically Hebrew has words come from three root letters. All right. Typically Hebrew, again, words we normally comes from rather Semitic language. Generally, they function on three root system. So words are formed from a root which is three roots. But primitive, these nouns have two or four roots rather than the three, which is the norm. And thankfully, the numbers of this is very small. You should read page Kelly 7.2 for that. And here are the nouns: Av, father; Yom, day; Ben, son; Em, mother; Laila, night; Yad, hand; Dam, blood; Pe, mouth; Shem, name. These are the primitive nouns. We do not know where they were derived from, and therefore they are classified as primitive nouns. A majority of the Hebrew nouns are derived from verbs. Okay, so you have a word called davar, which is word, and it comes from a verb, that is dibber. That is dibber. All right, dibber. Or a word like melek, that we very well know. Melek. It comes from the Hebrew verb malak. Malak. You will notice that the roots are the same. The root are the same. The vowelling differs, and the vowelling differences in the vowelling is what determines the difference between a verb and a noun in Hebrew. So, if it's malak, then it is a verb. If it's a melek, it is a noun. Although the roots are the same, malak, the root is the same. Ma, mem, lamed, and a kaf. Okay, so they are derived from that. But then you have we have nouns which are derived from other nouns. And the most classic one is the rosh. Rosh is head. We've studied that already. I'm sorry. Yeah, rosh. And from that we get the word bereshit, reshit rather, reshit, which is beginning in in Hebrew, reshit. So if you notice, within this is embedded the rosh, all right, the head, all right, in that sense, it's embedded in that. But reshit means beginning. Okay, so you formed another new, totally different noun from that. Okay, and some more examples are given in 7.4, so you can read those. Now, uh, when I'm talking about nouns, there are two aspects you have to remember. There are two things you have to remember. Nouns. One is they have a gender and they have a number in Hebrew. When I speak of gender, it can be masculine. In Hebrew, it can be masculine or feminine. When I'm talking about numbers, it can either be singular, which means it's referring to one item. It can either be dual, and this is different. This is something very unique in Hebrew, dual. A dual is when it refers to two items, and we'll deal with that later. And then we have what we call plural, which is more than two items. Okay, it deals with that. So now let me tell you something about Hebrew masculines. Hebrew masculine nouns, very notorious, especially let me say, Hebrew masculine singular. It's very difficult to figure out if a noun is masculine singular. The only sure way to find out is to go to a lexicon and figure it out whether it's a masculine noun. Why do we say that? Because there is no typical ending. That means I do not have any particular ending out here which will tell me that it is a masculine singular. Bear that in mind. It is endings which will now distinguish whether it's feminine or the little endings. You have very distinct endings for masculine plural, feminine plural, and all of that. So endings, in terms of endings, we really do not have a typical ending for a masculine singular. Okay, but what about feminines? Feminine singular. So let me just write it in a new this one. What about feminine singular? Now, feminine singular, feminine nouns referring to female persons or animals will be feminine. So if it's referring to female entity, whether it's persons or animals, it will always be feminine. And some of them is in 7.6. I can read them out to you. It's M, which is referring to mother, feminine. Bat, referring to daughter, feminine. Isha, woman, again feminine. Malka is queen, feminine. Susa, mare, feminine. All referring to a feminine entity. Now, the second one is more important. Nouns that end with kamatse will be feminine in gender. So, if you have a noun that ends in a kamatse, then it is a feminine gender. So, if I have a word called adama, you see, this is a noun and it ends with a kamatse, and therefore it is feminine. Or another word called behema. Behema is cattle. Behema. Again, you have another word, noun, which is ending with a kamatse, and therefore it is feminine. So remember the two rules that I've taught you so far for feminine singular. Let me repeat that again. Singular. If it's referring to a female entity, it is feminine. If it's ending with a kamatse, then it's a feminine singular. All right. If it's ending with kamatse, the noun, it is a feminine singular. Very important. Now we make a few feminine singular nouns from masculine singular nouns. So you have a word like melek. Now this is a masculine noun. We can make it feminine by adding a kamatse to the end of it. So it becomes malka. Okay? You added the kamatse ending to it and you made it that. Remember, the roots are the same. Malaka. Malaka. The roots are the same, but yet when you add the kamatse, you make it feminine. Or a word like soos. Soos is a horse. You want to, this is masculine singular. You want to make it into a feminine singular, you add susa. Kamatse, susa. That's my, samek. Okay, susa. Alright? That's how it is. Next, nouns. I told you that nouns that end with a kamatse will be feminine. Alright? Here's another rule. If a noun ends with a tav, it will ordinarily be a feminine. So if it ends with a tav, it will be feminine. Alright? So you have a word like akot. You've already studied that. Akot. I'm sorry. Akot. This word ends with a tav and therefore it is a feminine singular. Okay? Or a word like da'at, which means knowledge. Da'at. This ends with a tav and therefore it is a feminine singular. Or a word like delet. Delet. Again, this one ends with a tav and therefore it is feminine. Feminine singular. They're all singulars. Okay, so I'm teaching you all singulars now. Remember what I told you about masculine singulars. Masculine singulars have no typical ending. It's very difficult to figure them out. You need to go to a lexicon. But feminine, a little more easier to understand. One is if it's referring to female entities like mother, daughter, all of those, or a female animal, you know it's feminine word. Or if the noun ends with a common say, it will be feminine gender. Or in this case, or this screen that I'm showing you, if it ends with a tau, it will be feminine. Alright. Now, the last one for feminine singular. Nouns that refer to parts of the body that exist in pairs will be feminine. So, hand. A hand is the word yad. Now, it is feminine, singular. Okay, why is it feminine? Simply because it is a part of a body that exists in pair. It has to exist in pair. Okay, exist in a pair, parts of a body. They will be feminine. Okay, so hand. So that's yad. Or what about ayin? Ayin is eye, and it's a pair of eyes. So I mean it's part of a body that exists in a pair, and therefore it is feminine. What about regel? Regel is foot. Is the word foot. Regel. Now regel again refers to a part of a body that exists in pairs, and therefore it's going to typically be feminine. Now we spoke about masculine singular and feminine singular so far. Alright, now let me come to an ending, teach you about masculine plurals. How do I recognize a masculine plural? Thankfully, there is a very easy way to recognize a masculine plural. Masculine plurals will have endings of kirekyod and a mem. They will end with a kirekyod and a mem. So if I have a word called susim, it is susim. It is horses. Remember, it is plural, so you will have to write horses. What about har? You know, har is a mountain. If I want to say mountains, then it is har is a masculine. Then it will be harim. You see, I only add the kirekyod and a mem to it at the ending, and it becomes a plural, so it becomes mountains. So what is the typical ending? And this is good, because whenever I see a kirekyod followed by a final mem at the end of a word, I know it is a masculine plural ending. Alright? Or a word like ben. Maybe that's a little irregular, but maybe, okay, let me show you davar itself. Davar. Davar. I'm going to make it into a plural. So I add im to it at the ending. Of course, there will be vowel changes which are going to take place because of the laws of Hebrew vowelling and the syllabification. But it will be devarim in this particular case. But very importantly, if you know that it's an im ending, you know it's masculine plural. And if you know davara as a word means word, as if you know the vocabulary is word and im is words. Don't forget that, it's plural. You should have no challenge whatsoever. Okay? Now that is a masculine plural. What about a feminine plural? Feminine plural. Does feminine plurals have a typical ending whatsoever? And the answer is yes. A feminine plural does end with the colem tau. Now this colem tau may be defectively written as a colem. The feminine plural is a colem vav followed by a tav. It can also be defectively written as a colem instead of a colem vav. All right, without changing of meaning. The form may be different, but the meaning doesn't get changed. So when I want to say Torah is feminine singular. This is a feminine singular because it ends with come and say I want to say this. So the translation of this is law. If I want to say laws, then it becomes Torot. So you see, this is an ot ending, which is telling me it's feminine plural. And Torot is Torah, Torot. So it is now laws. Now, The only difference is that in this particular word, it came as a holem vav followed by a tav. But sometimes it can also be defectively written as a holem with a tav. You'll still read it as a torot. Correct? The only difference is the form is slightly different, your pronunciation is the same, the word is the same, the meaning is the same, the translation is the same. Everything is same. Alright? Only the form is slightly different. Bear that in mind. Okay, so another word. Can I give you another word? Yes, I shall. Okay, the next word. Remember, this will appear at the end of the word. So maybe it's a better idea if I write torot, or it can appear as ot. Yeah. What about a word like mitzvah? Mitzvah is commandment. Okay, mitzvah. Okay, it's ending with a kametse, so you know this is a feminine singular. Mitzvah means commandment. I want to make it commandments, so it become mitzvot. Mitzvot. The ot will tell me that it is feminine plural, and therefore I translated commandments like a plural. All right, now that's good, and we are good here, but there's an anomaly. The anomaly is that I've just taught you the feminine plural. There are some words. Now this is what we call shall I say irregular. Yes, that's the word I was searching for. Irregular. There are some masculine nouns that will have an ending of a feminine. That means it ends with an ot or defectively as a holem tau. Alright? The same ending like a feminine, it'll have the same endings. Okay? And this you can see in 7.15. You have a word like ab. Ab is a masculine singular. But the masculine plural is ab. Ot. Can you see it ends with an ot, which is typically used for the feminine plurals. But there are some masculine singular nouns which in their plural form will be an ot ending, and this is one of them. All right. There are other such words. I'm all taking them from 7.15, and you can see that makhom. Let's see this word makhom. Makhom. All right. Another one which is in its plural. This is masculine singular. In its plural, it is mekhomot. So it's ending with an ot, mekhomot, which is now translated as places. Makhom is place. Now, by the way, this is a masculine plural. Please don't call it feminine plural just because it has an ot ending. This is a masculine plural. It's typical of an irregular masculine noun which takes a feminine ending. Well, if that's the case, do I have any irregular feminine ones too? And the answer is yes. There are irregular feminine plural nouns that take the kirekyod mem ending. That is typical of a masculine one. And some of them are ear. Ear is feminine. Okay, this is a feminine singular. So a feminine singular, and the plural of ear is arim. You see, it is a kirekyod and a mem, which is very typical of a masculine plural, but this is a feminine plural. So there are some feminine nouns which have the plural that end with a kirekyod followed by a mem. Another very well known one and a little tricky when you make it plural is the word isha. Isha. It's very often comes in Hebrew, so please do kind of remember this form. This is a feminine singular. Because it has a kamatse also, it refers to a female entity and therefore it's feminine singular. Okay, but in the plural it becomes nasha. shim, kirek yod mem. See, it has a kirek yod mem, which is very typical of a masculine plural, but this is a feminine plural, and you'll translate it. You see, you'll recognize the plural form, so you will not get challenged whether it's a singular or a plural. Okay, because you know the ims and the oats are the plural forms. So here you'll translate it as women. You're not going to be challenged at all because you know the plural forms. The masculine plural forms are kirek yod mem. The feminine plural forms are ot, or defectively written as a kolem and a tau. Alright? Now, there are irregulars, but still the form will be the same. Now, there are few nouns that have both. I mean, as strange as this gets, this is again irregular. You have a word like dor. Dor is a word which in the Hebrew, which means generation. It is a word which in the Hebrew Bible sometimes it will come with dorim, okay, with the masculine one, and sometimes it will come as a dorot with the feminine plural. You see, in either case, you will still recognize it is a plural ending. Okay, if it appears as dorim, you know it's a masculine. It's functioning in that sentence as a masculine plural. If it comes as a dorot, you know in that sentence it's functioning as a feminine plural. Now, what is unique is this word can take either of these two forms. But either of these forms should not worry you because you are recognizing the endings as a plural and you will translate it as a plural. As long as you know the meaning of the word dor is generation, and you see the im or the ot, and you know that is plural, and you write the word s there to make it generations. The last thing I want to teach you is on dual nouns. Dual nouns, very unique in Hebrew. So we have I taught you about singular and plural, but let me talk about dual nouns now. What are dual nouns? Dual nouns. It is used to designate things that are occurring in pairs, mostly parts of the body that occurs in pairs. Okay. The exception is arms. Exception is arms. Exception is arms. Okay. Please read that in 7.19. Arms has occur in both the masculine. It has a masculine form which is zero im. So this is another word which can appear in both forms. It can appear as a zero ot. Okay. Now, whether it appears as an im or ot, you recognize that it is a plural, and if you know the meaning, that the meaning is arms, you should be fine. So let's keep the exception aside, all right? But what does dual refer to? The dual refers to it is used to designate things that occurs in pairs, usually parts of the body, but need not be only restricted to that. So what is a dual ending? So dual ending is very unique. A lot of students make a mistake with it. It is an accented patak. So I have to have that monak, the accented patak, followed by a yod, and then a kirek, and then a final mem. So remember, the kirek is below the yod. That's the biggest mistake. It is not a kirek yod. Okay. Remember, masculine plurals will have kirek yod and mem. All right. This is not a kirek yod and mem. This is a accented patak with a yod, with a kirek under the yod and the mem. Students make a mistake with this. I'm warning you again and again on this. So when I say have a word like Ozen. I'm taking this example from 7.20. Okay, page 52. Ozen is ear. All right, and I want to make, if it appears in the dual form because it's a part of a body, and that is occurring in pairs, so it appears as Oznaim. Now, very importantly, are you noticing this is an accented patak with a yod, with a kirek, and then you have the final mem. So are you observing that this has a dual ending? And therefore, if I know the meaning of this is ear, then you translate it as a pair of ears. Dual means referring to two items. Or a yad. Yad. Yad is feminine generally, but when it appears in this dual form, you will translate. You will say it is appearing in a dual. All right. Remember, dual is number. It's not gender. It's number. All right. Dual is number. So again, this is an accented patak, yod, kirek, and a final mem, and the root and the word is noun is yad. So this is now this is a dual form of the noun yad, and therefore I translate it as a pair of hands. Okay. Another one. These are all feminine nouns appearing in dual form. All right. Or a word like ayin. Okay. Remember we spoke about ayin, where it is a feminine singular noun because it's referring to a parts of a body. Now, if it appears in its dual form, all right, you will then, how will you translate it? Okay. The dual form of it is enaim. Enaim. See, this is an accented patak, yod, kirek, final mem. So you see this entire unit is of a dual ending. Very typical, unique. The moment you see a dual ending and you know the meaning of the word here, so in this case it is a pair of eyes. Alright, one exception is there, and the exception goes this way. There are 4 words in Hebrew Bible that has the form of a dual, but it does not have the meaning of the dual. So, for example, mayim. Mayim. Can you notice that it has an accented patak, then it has a yod, then it is a kirek, and a final mem. Mayim means water. It has dual form, but no dual meaning. There are only 4 words. We cannot say a pair of water. No, it's just water. It's a dual form, but the next one is shamayim. That's also shamayim. Shamayim means heaven or sky. All right. Again, you have the accented patak, you have the yod, kirek, and the final mem. This entire thing is a dual form, no dual meaning. You don't say a pair of heaven, a pair of skies. All right. No dual, meaning. Okay. So there are 4 words, 4 nouns that have a dual ending but do not have a dual meaning. So we saw 2 of them, Maim and Shamayim is the one I've written right now. There are 2 more, Yerushalayim and Mitzrayim. Yerushalayim is Jerusalem and Mitzrayim is Egypt. Both these words also have what shall I say, a dual ending, but it doesn't have a dual meaning. All right. At the end of the day, now let's break it down. Masculine, feminine, this is singular, this is plural, and this is dual. Maybe this dual should not have a break here. Okay, I shall erase that. Okay, masculine singular, endingless. There's no particular ending to it. Endingless. A feminine singular. Okay, feminine singular is, maybe I should not make my drawings too dirty. Okay, masculine singular. This is singular, plural. Feminine singular ends with a kamitse or it ends with a tav. All right, and it could refer to female entities. Masculine plural will end with the im. Feminine plural will end with the ot. It will also end defectively as a colem and a tau. Remember the irregulars. Irregular masculine plural irregular will end with the feminine ot. So irregulars can end with an ot. And here irregulars can end with the im. Okay, but there are some words in Hebrew that can have both a feminine and a masculine form. That's I'm not writing it here, but that's what it is. What about the dual? The dual is a word that is designated to things that occur in pairs, mostly parts of the body. Accented patak, yod, kirek, and mem. That's the form. Okay, and you translate it as a pair of something. Remember, 4 nouns have dual endings without a dual meanings. That's Maim, water, Shamaim, sky, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, and Mitzrayim, Egypt. They have a dual form, but they don't have any dual meaning. And that brings me to the end of this section of nouns. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. I enjoyed teaching this. Thank you.